Okay, I think we'll get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. I still see some people joining in, but I think we'll continue in interest of time. Welcome to the 17th edition of the Uday Knowledge Sessions. So we've been around now for quite a while, and we've really been enjoying bringing you different fintech models and concepts for you to learn about. As you all know, these Uday Knowledge Sessions are brought to you by Mumbai FinTech Hub and PwC. Mumbai FinTech Hub, of course, is the fintech vertical of the government of Maharashtra and is focused on looking at the growth of the sector in the state with a key focus on building fintech talent through education. And Uday is the fintech education program of the government, which focuses on assisting students like yourselves who are on this call who are interested in pursuing careers in fintech by equipping you with the relevant knowledge and information you need to explore such careers. The Uday Knowledge Sessions has therefore been designed in the same light, where we provide you with an opportunity to interact with industry experts and leaders who have really carved out a space for themselves in the fintech space and can talk about their experiences and their understanding of key concepts that you need to know if you want to excel in this space, and also the kind of skill sets you need to really pursue a career. Today, we're excited to invite Mr. Ayush Bansal, Senior Director, Business Strategy at Razorpay. Razorpay, as I'm sure a lot of you know, has really established itself in the online payment space with a plethora of offerings to drive payments and commerce. And they've also pivoted into the neobanking space as well, looking at the MSME segment with some really interesting services. It'll really be interesting to understand that whole roadmap of how Razorpay has evolved over time and what innovations and technology plays it's taken into account while it's gone on this journey, to see how it's got to the stage it's at in the spaces it's currently playing in. A bit about Ayush. Ayush has a BTech from IIT Roorkee. He's been with Razorpay for over 6 years and has a specific focus on cross-functional project and product development. So given this background and his exposure to different functions and different needs and roles, I really encourage the students today to take this opportunity to understand what these roles are, what they entail, what are the job descriptions, what are the skills you need to really excel in this space. And either way, we're very excited to have Ayush take the session today. As with previous sessions, before I hand over to Ayush, just quickly going over some housekeeping rules. As each of our sessions is, we like to keep this as interactive as possible. So do take advantage and ask your questions. You can choose to do so by choosing the Q&A feature available in the WebEx. So if you're using your laptop, click on the three-dot black button, and it'll open up a Q&A option. So when you click on the Q&A option, it'll open up a chat box where you can type in your question. Do make sure you choose all panelists so that we can see your question. And then what we'll do is at the appropriate time, we'll ask Ayush the question and have that Q&A session with him. If you're logged in from your phone, then it's again a very similar flow. Choose the black button with the 3 dots, choose Q&A, choose all panelists, and then type in your question. And then we'll pose your question to Ayush. That's primarily it. Ayush will be covering over the next 30 minutes his take on the space, the payment gateway space, and the Razorpay model. So without much further ado, introducing Ayush. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Amish. Thank you for the opportunity. Quick mic test. Can you hear me fine, Amish?
Yep, loud and clear. Perfect. And I think Pratik has handed over the presentation there.
Okay, great, perfect. So yeah, also another question, Amish, can the audience chat if they have to normally write something?
Yeah. So the Q&A feature or the chat feature, whichever one works. Q&A is easier to get access to, which is why we suggest that. But either way works.
Got it. Awesome. Quickly, yeah. So thanks, Avnish. Thanks, Avnish, Pratik, for the opportunity. This sounds amazing. I'm really excited. For the audience out here, just wanted to get a quick sense where you guys are right now. If you can write in the chat, and that would also test out the Q&A option or the chat option that we have. Where are you right now? Which city are you based in right now? You can type in the chat. Delhi, I see Delhi. Ahmedabad. Nice. All right, awesome. Mumbai. Oh wow. Okay, we have a diverse audience. That's great to know. I am in Jaipur. Kerala. Oh, interesting. So I'm in Jaipur. I work from Bangalore. But given this lockdown, came back to Jaipur. Oh, Ankit is from Jaipur. Hey, Ankit. Probably we can catch up sometime. Uh, Another question I wanted to have from you guys, like this is an interesting, not interesting, but this is a slightly different time. I think nobody expected like a COVID to hit so hard, and then everyone's life changed significantly. Anything that you picked up in this quarantine slash this COVID times? Any new skills, any new hobby that you picked up that you want to mention? Maybe reading books, maybe cooking, maybe cleaning the house, maybe playing with others, maybe board games. I love playing board games, by the way. Meditation and personal finance. PUBG gone now. Yeah, I know. Like a lot of disappointment to people there. Uh, my cousins are also very disappointed. Uh, Meditation is really nice. I've started doing meditation in the last 1 month or so. I would recommend everyone to try it out. And this is very solid way to keep your headspace strong. It helps you in doing the focus and concentrate very hard. Chess. Wow, okay, Ankit is interested in chess. I hope you saw the Carlson's match yesterday. Awesome. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Looks like an interesting, engaging audience. Let me quickly um, share the screen. Um, yeah, I hope can everyone see my screen? Avnish, maybe you can confirm.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So I wanted to keep it interactive, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it while chatting. But like, feel free to put in questions, and Avnish can stop me at any point of time, and then I'll be happy to take those questions. This is something I wanted to give you a brief about what exactly a fintech is. Start from there, and then expand the idea of what are the different opportunities, career opportunities in fintech, and how you guys can take advantage of. Or like, I'm sure you would be looking for jobs and all in future. So how can you engage with this? Yeah. So to start off with, what is fintech? I think it's a term which is popularly used in places like Bangalore, and to artificially inflate the base valuation of an entity, similar to the impact of the words like AI, ML, blockchain, etc. Avnish would probably relate there. So a lot of companies are coming around fintech as a concept, and then the common go-to line for everyone is they are expected to raise a seed round for my fintech startup around $10 million something, right? So this is the common trend which is happening. So I thought probably I'll decode fintech a little to you guys. I'm sure a lot of you would have been hearing about a lot of apps. So it gives you a good understanding of what exactly fintech is, trying to break it down. Let's see if we are successful. So two topics I want to cover today: what is fintech and what is B2B product. This is slightly there's a very good overlap between both of these two and what Razorpay is doing. So just giving an example, right? What exactly is fintech? So uh, I'm not sure if people can chat here, but would love to know any thoughts about what do you think about fintech. I'll keep running through the presentation. Keep shooting across your notes, chats, whatever. So if you have heard of these companies, right, like Razorpay is one of the like Paytm, PhonePe, MobiKwik, digital financial services. Arisha, you are right. This is digital financial services, but financial services itself is a very broad term. A lot of things happen in financial services. Amalgam of fintech, finance, and technology. This is a great definition. Literally breaking down fintech into finance and technology. Uh, so Razorpay, Paytm, PhonePe, MobiKwik, word of them. Anyone can you tell me difference between what what is Paytm and what is like a Razorpay or a PayU, if you have heard of these companies. Okay. While people type that answer, I'm going on to the next one. And then there are different sets of companies, which is capital float, lending card, and all, right? Now there are different themes which are coming in. So these are all the companies which kind of comprises or is what exactly a fintech ecosystem is, right? Like this is anywhere between a payment gateway to a wallet to a lending company to a pay later kind of a product and the wealth management, right? But like how do you wrap your head around Razorpay is like a payment gateway and Paytm is an app which facilitates the money movement. It's like a wallet, so that's the right answer. So um, Razorpay doesn't have a wallet. I think Kavya, you have read well about Razorpay. Really interesting to hear that thought. So fintech, this is essentially forming the ecosystem, right? But um, would you call HR software a fintech? A yes or no would be good. Waiting to hear from the audience. No. Okay. Purushottam says no. Uh, Kavya says no. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common understanding comes in, right? Like, but HR software can also be broken down into multiple things, right? Like, somebody mentioned that uh, fintech is essentially anything related to finance and technology. HR software handles pay, salary payouts also, right? Or reimbursements, travel expense management. Yeah, Kavya says. So essentially, HR software, a part of it is also fintech. Like not maybe not the HR day-to-day activities for the company, but that day-to-day activities also involves handling salary payouts and handling reimbursement or like travel and expense management, like Purushottam was saying, right? So essentially, HR software can be in a way classified as a fintech. So let's try to decode how do you think about fintech? What is a simplified framework to think about fintech, right? I've tried making a very ugly looking diagram, so bear with me on this one. So it's a very, very simplified framework, right? Like, so think about yourself as an individual, okay? Now, if you look at your own personal finances, so you have some money coming into your current account or in your savings account, right? You get probably maybe some of you might be students, so you might be getting some kind of allowances from your family as you start taking the jobs. So you'll get the salary coming into your account as you start creating your wealth management and all. Maybe you might get some dividends from some of the stocks that you own. Maybe you might get some rent from a property that you have rented out. So there's an incoming to your savings account. At the same time, there's a debit, right? You might want to give a party to your friends, right? For securing a very good numbers or marks in your exam. Uh, or like it's a birthday and you want to throw a party. So these are all debits. Or you want to buy a new laptop. So this is what goes out of your current account or savings account. Um, and whatever the delta is, whatever the leftover is, your essentially goal is how I can grow that money. Right? So this is how even a store thinks like a business thinks like. The business would have a lot of money coming in, which is the revenue stream. They might be collecting money from their consumers. They might be collecting money from the businesses. They might be collecting money through their services, any other like a recurring kind of money. There are different ways they collect money, and then they have to pay their salaries. They have to pay to their vendors. They have to pay like a office rent, right? So then there's a debit going out, and whatever the leftover is, you essentially use that to grow the business. So this is essentially a very, very simplified framework to think about the fintech. Now, whatever you want to fit in this, that would like the initial examples that I gave you, this is what the fintech promotes, right? Like either they would help you in creating money to the business, they would help you in debiting money from the business or growing the money or rotating that money. Uh, Taking a step further and explaining it with an example, right? And then that example kind of holds in most of the cases. So for credit, again, like I mentioned, how do you collect credit is through banks, through bank transfers, through payment gateways like Razorpay, through a P2P like a phone pay or a POS like a Pine Lab. If you go to any store and you are swiping the money through your card, swiping your credit card, that essentially money is debiting from you and crediting to the store, and that's the money movement. So he's collecting that money through that POS device, and of course there's a cash collection. I'll go to the debit part first. So again, debit happens through bank transfers, or through the P2P wallets like a PhonePe and all. Like if you, I'm not sure how much you have explored these platforms, but you can use PhonePe to pay your rent, right? So these are the kind of things which happens on debit. And the store is where you go to the likes of Zerodha, fixed deposits, and then try to gain that, make money from money, how we call it. So this is the essential framework on which the fintech established. Let us quickly take you on what is B2B, right? And then we'll try to connect both of them together. So a lot of people, when you talk about B2B, right, a lot of things click. One is a B2B is corporate, salesy, enterprisey, boring, right? Like you say that uh, suddenly if I call B2B, an IBM comes to your mind, right? Or Deloitte comes to your mind, and like you say, okay, maybe B2B is not that uh, interesting, right? Because that gives you a very corporate kind of a feel. But that's not true, right? Like a lot of businesses have become $1 billion valuation business just on that B2B framework. And in fact, if you go from an investor point of view, they like uh, uh, how B2B can make money, right? Because they have different levers to make money. Uh, why do you get more attracted towards a B2C kind of a company like a Flipkart? Because Flipkart would, for you, Flipkart, you are a customer to Flipkart. So Flipkart would you choose any channel available, be it an Instagram, be it a hoarding, be it a TV advertisement, and they would ensure that they have enough mind space with you. So that's why that Flipkart clicks well, but B2B sounds very corporate. But like let me give you an example of a couple of tweets that I'm going to share with you. So like SurveyMonkey is $200 million, and Mailchimp is $400 million, and like these are the valuation of these companies. And like uh, you are young people, right? Like anyone can convert this $400 million into crores and tell me how much this is. I'm hoping people would be good at maths here. 1,500 crores, yeah, that's a huge number. So 1,500 crores would be 200 million, but 400 would be even higher. But like 1,500 crores is humongous, right? Like business starts from zero, and where they have reached that valuation, this is crazy. Right? So and then think about them, SurveyMonkey. Most of you, have you heard of SurveyMonkey and Mailchimp, by the way? Any one of you? A yes and no would do good. And silence would be taken as no. So Okavia has heard about it. Supriya, no. Yeah, I mean, I did not hear about it like few years back. Purushottam, yes. Yeah, interesting. Preeti, no. Yeah, I mean, I would have said no about few years back. So that's I can completely understand where you guys are coming from. So, but like having being in this space, I understand about this much better now. I know that what a SurveyMonkey is doing and what Mailchimp is doing. So they work with businesses like us. So SurveyMonkey would come to like Razorpay and say that, hey, you want to run any email campaign? You give us the email list that you want to target, and we'll ensure that we send each email more personally or each survey more personally, uh, with all kinds of customization that you can do. So you must have um, you must have done any kind of surveys. You must have filled it for any XYZ reason, and you would have got a link on your like an email saying that fill that survey and you can get some credits or something like that. So those are automated through SurveyMonkey and Eventually. The SurveyMonkey doesn't like bother about who that about you as a customer, but they would partner with like a Flipkart, and then they say that you use our platform to create the survey and roll it out to all your customers. So this is and that is a very powerful tool because Flipkart would need to uh, reach out to their millions of customers. It is difficult for them to do it all by themselves. They don't want to create a SurveyMonkey like a tool within in-house. So there's a company which says, okay, I'll take that load from you. We just use these APIs or use this um, interface to shoot out as many emails as you want. Okay. Um, Going to the next one, I say, yeah, outsourcing market data gathering made possible. Yes, exactly. So Kavya, you are right. So this is the power of this platform, and these are really really uh, essential for the businesses like Razorpay to survive. Right? Like we also work with SurveyMonkey, and we actively work with them. This is a Justin Khan's tweet, which says that between selling Twitch and starting ATM, I've thought a lot about how B2B compares to B2C favorably, in my opinion. Right? Like he has created both Twitch and Atrium, and Twitch was, I'm sure you guys would be knowing about it. It's a blue B2C platform, allows you to host any kind of videos or gaming streams. And Atrium is a legal platform which kind of automates the legal insights available for businesses, right? Like, so it's an outsourced kind of legal entity. Uh, and he says that he was a little hesitant. He thought B2C is where all the meat is, but then he thought B2B is equally good as B2C. So that's what this talks about. So let me quickly cover about what worked for us. What are our learnings from the last 5 years, right? Like this gives you a good idea about what we do and how we do it. So first is whenever you are building for businesses, you need to be tech first solution for a technical problem. Right? You can't be just saying, okay, hey, you have to send surveys to 1 million customers. You give me the mailing list, I'll have people and they'll send the email one by one, right? That's not scalable. That's not successful. So you have to think about a tech first solution for a technical problem. So can I build a tech for it? Right? And that's what Razorpay started doing. Second is you need to have a self-serve system for a rapid scale. What does this mean? This means that I cannot have you getting onboarded on the platform by all the manual intervention. Let's say you want to, again, taking the same example, I'm not taking Razorpay's example because trying to be neutral and trying to explain it in as simplified way as possible. So again, in SurveyMonkey's case, your audience, since it's a B2B, your audience is not just top five e-commerce players in India. Your audience is even the long tail, the SMEs, right? MSMEs, which are out there. So, and you can't have people just onboarding each one of them separately. So you would want to have a self-serve system. A person, from Razorpay can go to a SurveyMonkey and complete an end-to-end journey of uh, logging in, creating an account, creating that survey, and sending that survey automatically. So I shouldn't be needing to talk to anyone implicitly, right? And design always acts as a key differentiator. I have a later parts of slides which talks about how design as a career can be pursued, but design is always a key differentiator, right? Like till date, a lot of people, and if you go to Twitter and read about Razorpay's, what is the mind share of Razorpay, you'll see tweets which still talk about Razorpay's design and elegance till date, right? So design is always a key differentiator because in the end, even when SurveyMonkey is coming to you as a customer, end customer, you would still see how that platform is, right? Like you still, and that platform is representing Flipkart in a way. Yeah. I'll quickly cover these big parts, right? So on the tech advantage part, we have, I'm not sure how many of you want to pursue your career towards tech advantage, tech side or engineering side, but these are something which definitely help any business scale, right? Like that tech differentiator has to be very, very strong. You need to have a clean APIs. You need to have APIs for everything, right? Like there shouldn't be any case where uh, the business is coming to you and saying, "Hey, I need to send out survey to 20 different companies or who I'm working with, and out of those 20 companies, I need to send it to 10 different employees of each company." Right? Then you can't say, "Okay, I have only made it for consumers. I've not made it for the companies or B2Bs, so I can't work it for you." Or let's say if they come out and they say, uh, the survey has already gone out, I need a remote setup where I can change that survey before the customer or consumer has opened that survey. So you need to have APIs. You have to think about all the edge cases and build APIs for it. So that's the tech advantage that you get. Managing switching costs, again, let's say taking an example of Razorpay. If any business is using Razorpay as a payment gateway to collect their revenues, uh, they have to look at how to move from an existing payment gateway to Razorpay. So that's a cost in itself, right? Because they have to disassociate with them, do an integration with us, which is a long journey. So there's a cost involved because there's a developer which is going to be aligned from their end, uh, and you have to justify that cost. So this is something which is very, very critical. Documentation, very, very important, and backward compatibility, right? Like tomorrow they want to push anything to you, saying that, hey, this is the information that I want you to compile. That compatibility should be very, very strong. What are the self-serve advantage? So uh, again, I covered what self-serve means. 80% of a customer would be coming through self-serve in any B2B or a FinTech kind of company. Let's say a company scales for 1,000 clients or a million clients, then you can't have people solving all the problems. So you have to have a self-serve. And sales driven or product driven, again, you want to define that whether you want your company to be done by people or run by product, right? How did Google scale so fast, right? Like, have you ever, uh, probably you wouldn't have interacted, but let's say if any of you is an entrepreneur, you want to set up a Google Maps for your business or want to set up a, let's say, any Google's product on your business, you never talk to anyone, right? And that too with Google, uh, working with millions of businesses across the world. Right? So at that scale, you can't have people talking to people because that is not so scalable. Right? And there are of course multiple benefits which come because of self-serve. Multiple avenues of client acquisition. We don't know where the clients will be typically coming from. More clients, more opportunity, and inherently superior experience. Right? Like it gives a feel-good factor if you could go set up everything by yourself. That's a very, very strong empowerment, right? And you would want to give that empowerment feeling to the end customer, right? Has anyone heard of Slack? Can can people tell me what Slack is? Chat application, workspace. Mukund hasn't heard of Slack, which is okay. I also did not hear about Slack before joining Razorpay. So, so essentially, Slack is a like Pulkit mentioned. Slack is a workspace, right? Like for in a business, you want to interact with uh, internal team communication. Yeah, Sonam says yes, she has heard about it. In a business which is, let's say, 1,000 people strong, how do you ensure that one person communicates across the organization? It's very, very difficult for them to do, right? Like for a person sitting in sales team to interact with an operation team and like send him a chat message, do you think WhatsApp would be scalable? No, right? Because uh, WhatsApp works in one-to-one conversation or a one-to-many conversation, but many-to-many conversation, WhatsApp fails, right? Like you know how cluttered your family WhatsApp groups are, right? Somebody would come out and send random good morning, good evening messages, irrespective of which WhatsApp group you are part of, right? So you want to avoid those conversations. You want to create that different space. Plus, uh, that space not just is important, but it allows you to do all sorts of external integration. And you want to have documents also coming into that space. You also want to have some video calling features coming into that space, right? So this is what Slack has created. Slack became a marketplace of these apps, external apps. And for a business, it starts with a very, very small use case that you can create a chat platform for your team. Right? I want to send a message to my team. I'll just put it on Slack saying, hey, team, we'll meet today in evening around 6 p.m. Something important to be discussed. Right? Everything goes to everyone. I need to send any notification to people, I can do it. I can schedule somebody's calendar, I can do it. So this is the power which comes out from Slack. This started in August 13, right? If you look at the numbers, August till about August 14, and this is a freemium software, by the way, right, guys? You'll you can, so they, if you look at October 16, they had about 40 lakh customer. daily active users. Out of them, a fraction is paid user. And by the way, this conversion is very strong for any business. For any B2B business, if you talk about, almost your 25-30% of your customer paying is very, very strong for a freemium model. I also covered design advantage, right? But let's talk about why does Razorpay needs a design team. I covered a bit about it. It is a platform where you can have free views of employees. Identity is hidden. Managers used to have the mood of the organization. So Mukund, you are right, but identity is not always hidden. Right? I chat in my Slack messages as Ayush. I am not anonymous in there. There are features through which you can hide the identity, but usually that's not the intent. It's not an anonymity feature. So the next question is, why does Razorpay needs a design team, right? Like, would want to crowdsource some ideas. What do you think is design team do for Razorpay? Any thoughts? Build design of applications. Yeah, we work with multiple applications. So Kavya says build design of applications. Yeah, that's one interesting way to look at it. But why do we build design of application, right? Like, we are working for businesses, right? So we can just give open APIs and let them design whatever they want to. Pulkit says UI and ease of access is very integral part of apps these days. Yeah, but we do not build any apps. We do not build any end consumer apps. We build for businesses.
Ayush, one piece. Sorry to comment. I also thought maybe a good point. Like, we also got a question during our registration, where some folks were actually wondering what exactly a payment gateway does. In the whole payment flow. Like, I think you've really hit the nail in terms of it being a B2B play. But maybe if you, I thought it's a good time to cover that. People can also understand more.
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, Abhi. So let me give you a very crisp about what Razorpay does or what a payment gateway does. So think about you as a consumer, right? Like, everyone does shopping, I'm assuming, right? Like, they would love to do shopping online. So let's say if I have to buy a T-shirt from Flipkart, what do? I go to Flipkart's page. I scroll through multiple options that they give me. I select a T-shirt that they offer to me that looks like a very cool design to me. They give a very, very poor option which says that you can select with this shirt, an orange pant goes well. I say no, I don't want an orange pant. I go to checkout page. I say okay, I need to complete this payment flow. So you fill up an address, and post address you have a option to pay through a credit card, debit card, net banking, wallet, or any number of payment option. So this is where a company like Payment Gateway comes into picture. So essentially what they are doing is, till the time they are collecting the address, everything is in their ecosystem. But when they are collecting a credit card information, according to RBI, they can't do it by themselves because they don't know what to do with the credit card number, right? Like, you are given a credit card number. How do I get to know? Like, if I tell you a credit card number, you don't know which bank it is, where to debit it, right? How to use that. So this is where Razorpay comes into picture. We say that we build that interface for Flipkart, and Flipkart is just an example of this. So we build that interface for Flipkart. As a consumer, you enter your credit card number. We take that credit card number. That credit card number gives us a lot of information. We get to know what your network is, whether it's a Visa or MasterCard. We get to know what your bank is, what your account number is, everything we get to know. And through reaching out to Visa and MasterCard, we reach to your bank account and debit whatever amount that Flipkart is asking us to. So essentially, we are a layer between any company who wants to collect revenue and how to collect that revenue from the consumer. So we are that interface which acts there. Right? Now, there can be multiple payment options there. They can be card, they can be net banking, they can be wallets, they can be pay later option. I'm not sure how many of you have used these options, but again, for a business, it becomes impossible for them to integrate with each one of them separately. Right? For example, if I just take an example of net banking, I'm hoping everyone has either use their own net banking or use your parents' net banking option. Uh, Net banking, when you do, let's say if you have an account with HDFC Bank, you'll go to HDFC portal and do a login and make a payment. For a business to integrate with that portal, that's only one bank integration. Now, there are more than 100 banks in India. It is impossible for one business to just keep integrating with every bank because the customer is going to come out and say, hey, I want to make a payment from Bank of Allahabad. You don't have a Bank of Allahabad payment option. Right? So what do they do? Again, they come to Razorpay, they say, okay, I don't know, I don't have time to integrate with all this. I'll just integrate with you. Can you just ensure that you tie up with every other payment option on the back end and make the life simpler for my customer? Right? I'll take a pause there. I spoke a lot of things about payment gateway. Any question that I want to take up from the chat? Any questions do you have about payment gateway?
So there are a few that have come in, but we can continue. I was actually thinking, given that you're given that perspective now, it'll be interesting again for students to come in with, like, from a design perspective, what is important now that you'll understand what Ayush is mentioning in terms of the role of a payment gateway and where Razorpay plays, and the B2B nature of it. It'll be interesting to hear. So maybe again, just opening up the question to the students.
Yes. Yeah. So coming back to the question, right? Like now I've given you a brief about what Razorpay does, what a payment gateway is. It's just an interface, right? And Flipkart can build that interface themselves. So why do we need a design, right? Like why do we need a design? We can do everything through an API. API is essentially a building block. I'm not sure everyone is familiar with what API is. API is a building block of any tech infrastructure. So it's the backend coding which I can, like, trying to oversimplify it. It's a backend coding that I can integrate with any other third party, and they give me all kind of modules, all kind of tech integration, and I can build infrastructure over those blocks. So let me cover what the Razorpay's design advantages, right? Like while we talk about we are building for business, again in the same example of building a payment gateway for Flipkart, in the end, a consumer is using it, right? Like, so there has to be a B2C level of usability expectation, right? Like, can I uh, simplify an end user's journey, right? Like you as a customer, sometimes you make a payment on some other platform, you go, wow, right? This is amazing. This was very, very smooth. And sometimes you go on any platform and you're like, I don't even understand where to enter my credit card. It's very confusing for me, right? So it's very easy to it's very important to simplify the design that we're talking about. It is a way to build credibility in the market, right? Like think about, let's say a website is offering an iPhone at a 10,000 rupees discount, and website is very ugly looking, right? Like very, 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 the elements are broken, some of the links are not working, um, some of the screens are going out of your computer screen. Uh, would you make a payment on that? Like at least you'll think twice about it, right? Maybe that 10,000 incentive is good enough for you to make a payment, but you'll think twice about it. You'll be like, there's something fishy going on here, right? Like, so that design, that neatness, and you like Flipkart, right? Like we always compare Flipkart versus Amazon, and we always talk about Flipkart looks much simpler for me to make a to shop, do shopping, right? That helps you build the credibility in the market. Uh, and of course, you are going to talk about it to your friends, right? Like how Flipkart gained publicity, how Flipkart gained that market space was because I like Flipkart. I went to my friend. I told them that, hey, have you used this very, very clean website, very nice thing, and it made my life simpler because now I can order anything that I want. I can order fancy shoes and I get it in 2 days, and it's very beautiful to do it, right? So increases word of mouth marketing. And of course, challenger brand, right? Like still people stick around. Amazon has an amazing delivery mechanism. Like they have they've unlocked the delivery potential. They do a prime delivery on the same day or the next day. Despite that, many people still go to Flipkart, right? Because Flipkart is very clean in terms of design, and then uh, it's a challenger brand. Self-serve, it's simpler to use, of course. And the last and more important is it is difficult to copy good design. And you can uh, because there are certain principles, like you can easily say you are wearing a branded shirt of, let's say, Levi's, okay, and I'm uh, and I'm wearing a copy of it, right? Like I bought something from this tree, you can easily tell that this is a copy, this is not an original, right? So it's because it's difficult to copy a design. This is a Salesforce, right? I'm not sure if you guys have used it. How many of you like this design? A yes and no would do good. Poor design. Kavya doesn't like it. Neeraj doesn't like it. Yeah, it's like Salesforce has kind of created the monopoly. So the point I was trying to make, although this is a very, very bad design, and I personally don't like the design, but the monopoly that Salesforce have created, every big business uses them, right? Like, so either you create that monopoly where design is all secondary, or if you are into competing space, then you have to really focus on the design elements. A lot of people don't like the design, but unfortunately or fortunately, you'll have to work on this at some point in your life because Salesforce has presence literally everywhere. This is again a deal flow. It's very. I understand this is very ugly, but they solve a purpose. They solve a utility, so that's why they are there. They are there. Okay, so this is the end of the presentation. I like to have a lot of memes and things around in my presentation. So here's the last meme for you. I touched things at the surface level, tried to keep it as simple as possible. I hope this was informative to you. I think you, at the end of the day, you can gain something from it. Open for any questions that you have.
So thanks, Ayush. I think it's really interesting. I really like the different points and philosophies that you touched. In fact, one maybe to start off with, I'm just going through some of the questions in the chat as well as some of the questions we got at time of registration. You mentioned the importance, and like for example, you gave Slack as an example, where a lot of fintechs particularly use that strategy of having some kind of hook to start off customer acquisition, right? And maybe for a while just go with that and pure design and experience to really build a customer base before you then pivot into other areas as a strategy. So what was the Razorpay story? So given that you're in the B2B space, what is your innovation in terms of trying to get to customers? In fact, there was a question where somebody asked, have you used are there any particular segments that see higher traction in terms of payment gateway requirements, and therefore you guys focus on that first? What is your strategy?
Very good question. Let me just let me just focus on that point. So there are two ways a business can grow, right? Like one is starting with like one is doing everything which is out there, right? What Amazon does for them, like you give anything, they are in AWS, they are into e-commerce, they are into hyperlocal, they are into everything, right? Like which you can imagine. And then but they always started with something very, very small, right? Amazon, Flipkart started with a book selling on the platform. So you always have to create that niche so that people identify you as a differentiator, right? And this is very, very important for all the businesses. So if you start spreading too thin over time or way too fast, then people don't associate very strongly with you, right? Something what Paytm does, right? Paytm is there in everyone's of our mind, but at some point Paytm started doing everything which was there. Like they are doing movie ticketing, they are doing events ticketing and all that, right? They have a Paytm mall, they have wallet, they have paid payments ban. So as a consumer, I'm confused. What do I go to Paytm for, right? But Paytm has a moat to begin with. Paytm was a wallet. Paytm was an alternative to your cash management. For Razorpay, we also addressed the niche to begin with. In the early days, the problem that we identified in the market was for a Flipkart or for a scaled up business. And sorry, I think I keep saying Flipkart again and again because I feel that is more relatable to the audience here. But by Flipkart, you can replace that with any known brand that you know of. So for Flipkart, it's very easy for them to go to a bank and get a payment gateway or go to like the existing payment gateways and like get their conditions met. But for a small business, it was extremely difficult to accept money online at that point. It was like they had to go to bank or they had to go to existing payment gateway players like a PayU. The challenge was the documentation was humongous, right? Like they'll ask for 10 different documents, which are physical document. You'll create, you'll scan, you'll copy, you'll download, and then you send it to them, sign 10 different signatures, which they have to send it to the bank. And then the integration was again a pain, right? Integration itself used to take like a 5 developer effort, used to take a month to solve it. So for us, we understood that this is a pain point. So let us go and start with that audience first. Somebody who is just starting their business and nobody is listening to them. Let us listen to them. So we went to them and we said, okay, uh, we understand your payment gateway little pain. Let us give you a payment gateway in 1 day. That was our promise. And they started realizing that the payment gateway is such an important thing, but nobody is addressing them. Let's give Razorpay a chance. And once we started fulfilling that promise, we started giving payment gateway, took them live in a day, including the integration because our integration was super simple. The word of mouth started spreading. So I covered that in my presentation. I, as a merchant or as a entrepreneur, I would go and talk to my friends. I would tell them that, hey, are you struggling with the payment gateway? Or they'll tell me that they're struggling with the payment gateway. Why don't you use EasyPay? And that was our journey. That's where we started. We focused very hard on the problem. We made the life of customer absolutely easy, right? Like um, they should be up and running to collect payment from the customer in no time. And that was our focus. And that clicked well.
Thanks, Ayush. Another couple of questions along the lines. Of course, they mentioned specifically from a Razorpay perspective, but I also abstracted to a larger payment gateway perspective. As a payment gateway player, what are the different levers around which you differentiate yourselves? Because there are a few options. Of course, you also touched upon the extreme importance of design, and you also mentioned just now as well in terms of how the seamless customer experience becomes a real key to driving business. But do you want to just touch upon that? There are a couple of people, like in fact, there's a specific question saying, has Razorpay looked at a low-cost strategy or is it a differentiator strategy? If so, what is the differentiation points?
Yeah. So again, a very, very smart question. I think the audience here is really have done the study about the payment gateway part. So it's good to see this interest. So this is so Razorpay has a couple of differentiator strategy. One is what I already mentioned, right? This still holds true. We are still the payment gateway which can take you live fastest to the market, which the fastest always have a ring to it, right? Like, I mean, you would always want to like Amazon is popular because of fastest delivery, right? Uber is popular because you get that car coming in fastest, right? So this fastest, of course, a key. Design is, of course, a differentiator for us. So how we look at design from different angles. For a big company, they don't worry about design because they can build their own designs. They just say, okay, give me a raw building blocks, which is API, and I'll build everything over it. You don't have to worry about it. But for a small business, they don't have time to build a design for a payment gateway. So they come to Razorpay, and then they take the payment gateway, and that payment gateway is scalable. That checkout or that entire product is very scalable, which is very hard to find in this industry, right? A lot of businesses using other payment gateway, they take that payment gateway integration after a couple of years or so. They figure out that uh, they are running out of customer experience part. A lot of customers are complaining their payment pages are failing or whatever, and they have to build their own. So design plays a very, very key role because it's also scalable. And third and most important is so Razorpay has a very, very focused approach about going B2B. So what it means is there are a lot of products in FinTech which are consumer oriented. Like think about, I'm not sure how many products you have interacted with, but Paytm, MobiKwik, PhonePay, Google Pay, right? ePay later, maybe Get Simple, right? These are all the consumer oriented products. So we can also build a Razorpay wallet. We can also build a Razorpay Pay Later product, which is catering to the end consumer. But we are very, very sure that we don't want to do that. We want to only build for businesses, and that allows us to become a conglomerate of the sorts. So uh, we we tell the businesses that you want to provide n number of payment options to your consumer. You just integrate with Razorpay, and we'll integrate everything on the backend. So that's one single integration, and you forget about all your payment problems for life, right? And why I mentioned about B2B and B2C, because being a B2B player, companies like Paytm, Get Simple, and all these companies, they do not look at Razorpay as a competition. They feel that Razorpay is a platform which can help them scale. And we have done that, right? We have taken a lot of these B2C companies and we have scaled them on our platform. So that I feel these three things are the key differentiators that we provide in the market.
Thanks. A couple of other interesting ones. Maybe we'll cover a couple more questions and then go into the segment about career. There's one really interesting one. Do payment gateway companies have a consulting role? And if yes, then what sort of work you get into? And I thought that's quite interesting. Also, you've also kind of touched upon that in your previous answer, but just to build on that.
Yes, so we do. In fact, I'm kind of leading that team which does that. So essentially, the consulting role comes after a certain stage, and it's not specific to a payment gateway company. I think that, and probably I think Avnish would be better suited to answer this question, given that he's looking at all these industries from an outsider's point of view. But I feel that every company, like be it a e-commerce player, be it like a money view kind of a company, any company once it scales up, they would need a consulting background people to come in and solve very different sorts of problem, right? So the problem keeps changing as you grow up. The problems can be, let's say, we want to launch a new product into the market. What is that market space available? What is that market valuation available, right? How can this product scale to that potential? What would be the key differentiator that we need to build in? So there's definitely a research element to it, and research slash research plus plus or amplified. That is what consulting team does, right? Like they'll identify a problem. For example, let's say Razorpay right now. If I have to give you a couple of problem statement, we are thinking about we want to get into a new banking space. Again, I don't want to confuse or overburden you with all these terminology, so you can ignore these terminology. But let's say Razorpay wants to launch a new product into the market. One is, who is the target audience for that new product? Second question is, does the existing Razorpay's merchant, are they fit for that product or not? Is there a demand out there? Which are the existing companies who are already in that space? How are they doing? Have they tasted success? Is this a new market? So there are a bunch of questions which keep coming up, right? Another question that we solve, right? Razorpay wants to go international tomorrow. Right? So there are consultants who work on these problems day in, day out. They figure out, they create their network, they talk to different people, they reach out to external consultants to build their theories, build their thesis, and then come out with a recommendation that yes, international opportunities, let's say, of worth $X billion. Razorpay getting into that has this much of revenue potential. How to get into that? This is the framework of, or this is the plan on how we can get into that. So yes, we do have a consultant's role, and the problem statements are, I just covered 2 problem statements broadly, but there are n number of problem statements which we have to do.
Does Razorpay also, just to build on that a little more, does Razorpay also provide some insights to your customers as value-added services where you can help them grow their businesses, see patterns, given that you'll have possible technology for data and insights? Is that also a play that Razorpay looks at?
So that's an interesting
B2B.
Yeah, that's an interesting play. So not for end consumer, but we do help customers build a lot of marketing and loyalty kind of platforms. It's not a focused area for us because it's not a one shoe fit all. It is very, very customizable. It is very much dependent on business to business and what their problem statements are. But given the data that we have at this point, we can always, there's a potential of expanding into that domain. We haven't explored very, very extensively though.
Yeah. Thanks. So I'm going to, there's one more question, but I'm probably just going to flip to the other section given the time, and maybe we can come back. Could you give us a quick brief on like what are the core 2-3 major roles that really happened in the payment gateway? You've already spoken about the importance of design, the importance of technology, so there would be associated roles with those functional areas. Maybe if you just shed light on what are the main roles that people would look at if they are looking at a career in the payment gateway space.
Sure. So yeah, so Razorpay as an organization, we are about 1,000 people strong right now. So over time, those structuring and everything has come into place. So if I have to give you a brief glimpse of what the teams and what the roles are, so there's of course a sales team, and sales I wouldn't want to elaborate because it's already sales by default and is understandable. But within sales team, there are again multiple teams, right? Like while we think that sales is somebody just wearing a suit and going out and getting the clients for the customer for the company, sales also has a different kind of roles. One is you are doing an SME or a inside sales kind of role, and just naming a few roles, and then anything which you want me to elaborate on, I can. Um, then there's a direct sales or enterprise sales that you want to target to the key accounts. And then there's an account management which runs in parallel, right? So sales team gets the merchant on board, and then you need to manage the relationship. So there's a relationship management team who are very strong in people skills, who are very strong in the networking, and they focus on holding the client together, holding the food together. And there's a third team which is outside this, which is a solutions team, right? Like what they do is uh, a lot of clients do not understand their problem very well. So essentially, let's say if uh, I'm let's say Zerodha, I might have a payment related problem, but I don't realize it's that big a problem. Maybe I'm assuming that this is a status quo in the market. The solution team kind of help in that whiteboarding, sits with them, understand their payment flows, and tell them where all things can be optimized. So it's a very, very tech slash salesy kind of a role. It's a mixture of both. Then you have an operations arm. Operations people, what they do is they help in merchants onboarding, merchants risk evaluation, uh, merchants dispute resolution, and of course the support team, which who is the front ending customer facing role, who interact with all sorts of customer query, direct them or filter them internally into different buckets, and helps the resolution happens in the real time. This is on the ops and sales part. Um, in parallel, you always build a marketing team. So marketing team is where I'll not go deeper into marketing team, but marketing team, and one function that I wanted to mention about marketing team is a PMM function. Maybe you can explore more. It's called uh, product marketing manager, right? Like which is um, essentially sort of a product manager role, but more from marketing angle. So they define. So if you have a product to launch into the market, they define what should be the launch strategy, which merchants to reach out, how to reach out, what should be the collateral, what should be the decks and all that we should be building for them. So they define the entire product's customer facing interaction. Right? So this is on the business side, the teams that we have. On the tech side, we have two major functions. One is engineering and one is product. So engineering, of course, whoever like these are the technology or hardcore coders who build all the backend and infrastructure for us, where the platform is laid down and all the products and everything function, and whatever you see uh, on the website or interacting with you, the backend is built by them. So this is a tech function. It's a very, very strong function for us. Like we are a very, very tech focused company. So out of 800, 900 people that I mentioned, almost 40% or 30% are tech people for us. And then there's a product manager role, right? What product manager does is he's essentially a storyteller. So let's say, for example, you have an idea. How can you shape that idea into form of going live as a product? So that journey is defined by the product manager. So these are the broad 4 or 5 categories. In parallel, we have an analytics arm, right? Like a lot of people would be interested to know about it. So analytics is something which is very, very core to us. It's again three or two segmented. One is solving the internal problems, like um, understanding where the business is going, understanding how we like processing all the data which is available, right? Like making extracting a meaningful information from the data. And second is more of a research or projecting arm. Like you have the data, then you build the right models. You tell the company or the CEO, okay, this is where we are right now. When are we getting to a profitability? When are we getting to what revenues we might be making next year? So more like forecasting of the sorts. This is the analytics, another arm of the analytics. And of course, we are a finance company, so I cannot miss finance as a function. So finance in general, any of you with finance background, you can be part of that team. So it starts with managing with the banking relations to managing your entire financials of the sort, tax filing, and there are 100 different things which happen in finance. I'll keep it generic. So any particular role that you want me to double click on, I'm happy to do it.
So thanks, Ayush. I think that's really helpful. You've covered also like a standard question is the whole what's the importance of a technical background versus a function. I think you also covered that. So thank you. And I think the students have also got a good sense of the different roles as you mentioned them. I'm going to, in the interest of time, unfortunately, we would love to extend this, but I'm going to have to slowly wind things up. I'm going to end with one last question, combining a few questions around a similar theme, and maybe put you on the spot a bit. Like, what is your sense of what's the next big thing that's going to happen in the payment space? For example, there's a question from Pulkit Singh, where he thinks a lot of different payments players, especially, are moving into the insurance segment. Is that a possible play that you see becoming a new strategy? A couple of other people have also put in their questions saying, given the current COVID situation, what is the next big thing going to be? So maybe you can end with that.
Yeah, I think for me, I think payment gateway and fintech is all about innovation and how we can do the same thing, but more differently. And in general, I think most of you must have felt that before the presentation, or maybe even now. I'm not sure if I did a decent job there or not, but most of you must, like, as soon as I say finance, you'll be like, oh, okay, I'm like, it's a boring stuff, right? And a lot of people feel that way. They feel that finance is boring. So what companies like Pulkit mentioned about PhonePe, Paytm, what we are doing is trying to make finance accessible to people. Generally, finance is very inaccessible to people. You have to go to a chartered accountant to file your taxes. You have to you have to go to bank to do a number of things. Right? So it's very very bank heavy, very industry heavy, and all that. So that's where fintech comes into picture, and we say that we make finance fun for you. That's our objective. The next big thing that I'm expecting to happen, and Razorpay is also getting into that space, is how we can best utilize bank for a customer. From a customer point of view, right? Where is your money sitting in? Everyone's money sitting in the bank, right? Or you have to. There's one core essential thing which is bank account, right? As soon as you enter the institution, you needed to have a bank account. So it's your one of the first form of identity that you get. Um, but how much of you interact with the bank, right? You don't interact with the bank that often, right? Because banks are very complex creatures, if I have to say that, right? Like bank is very complex systems, and many of these are unnecessary, right? Many of these, like for example, as a business, if I have to uh, approve a payment to be made to my vendor, I have to make like 3 or 4 clicks, right? Through multiple peoples, right? It goes to an approval chain. They go to a website. It's called as eNet. They'll go to eNet. They'll enter the password. Then they'll get an OTP on their phone. They have a device which has an OTP. They'll read our OTP and then enter the. It's a very complex and unnecessary redundant processes which banks have built. And of course, they have to do it because they are protecting the money. One of the India's banking system is one of the finest and one of the strongest. Like even at 2008 crash, we did not fail, right? We were still going very strong. So in my opinion, I think there are a lot of products which can be simplified and built over banking infrastructure. This is where Razorpay is also getting into space. One word that I'll say, and probably you guys can read more about it, is neo-banking. Uh, Neo-banking is the future of how the banking is going to be done by an individual and business. There are a lot of players coming out in this space. It's a very complex problem, and that's why you haven't heard of a neo-banking player outrightly emerging. Um, but I think in next 2 to 3 years, you'll kind of find a revolution. It's sort of an UPI moment for the banking space. This is one sector where I feel a lot of innovation is going to happen. Second is I feel lending, right? Like in general, a bunch of things are happening around lending, but it is still a very unsolved space for the country. Uh, if you go to any of your like parents or uncles or whoever, right, or relatives, right? You ask them how easy or difficult it is to get a loan for a business. You'll get to understand what is the pain point there. It's absolutely complex. It's a very document heavy process, and it like for me to take up 1 lakh rupees of loan, I have to go through such a big hassle. I feel there's a lot of innovation scope there, and next innovation is going to happen for that. You might not see it because this is intended toward business. So if you are an entrepreneur, you might feel the change over time. If you are a consumer, then for a consumer, this is still solved to a majority of extent. So I'm trying to keep it simple to the businesses. Two innovation, one is on the new banking side and one on the lending piece side.
No, thanks a lot, Ayush. I think it's really relevant and particularly relevant at this time, given the need for access to financial services, especially in the last mile, and the role that fintechs can play. I think we really hit the nail in that sense in terms of that next evolution being even more important for us. Unfortunately, though we would not like to, we will have to bring it into the session given the time. But again, just want to take this opportunity to thank you so much. I think it's been a fantastic session, really interactive. Thank you so much for attending today and giving us your thoughts on the space.
Thank you so much, Amish. Thank you for hosting me. Thank you, Prateek. Guys, if you want to reach out to me, feel free to drop me a mail at ayush@razorpay.com. It's spelled at ayush@razorpay.com.
Fantastic. So thank you. Thanks a lot, Ayush. And thank you to everybody who joined in and for the fantastic questions and participation. As Ayush mentioned, do reach out, take the opportunity to really make the most of this and look at how you can explore such careers. And also, from a broader perspective, as always, we love to hear from you. So please do send in your comments to us on how we can continue to run this, improve different things, what topics you want to hear, what areas you want to see. But otherwise, for now, thank you so much for joining in and have a good week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.